everyone, welcome to the Veloce Race Review. I'm Aaron McNanny.
And I'm Pat Brown. Today we're going to be going over the Crossasaurus Awesome race. This was a really fun course. I think everyone can agree on that.
So this took place, actually I can't remember where this took place. I think it was just outside of Philly. It was put on by, I think, Philadelphia Ciclismo and some of those guys down there. Awesome race. So this is me, and actually Pat is in this race as well. So we're going to go back to his start in a few moments too. So that rider just dropped a chain. He's out of the race, which is unfortunate because he's with the, what's that team? The one that Josh Croston's on? Oh yeah, I'll think about it in a second. But anyways, so I had the fortune of starting in the front row because of where I stood in the series.
You can see that there's a lot of guys in this race. There's a really good amount, a good turnout.
Absolutely. So this was a very technical ascent right there. I had to unclip all but one lap. But you'll see I'm able to maintain my lead for quite a while here. Felt really good. I was just putting out power. You could see my heart rate's at around 170. Maybe I'm averaging, I don't know, 300 watts throughout this entire first section. And I'm just trying to distance myself. So there's no one directly behind me at this point. I'm just, trying to go, go, go.
And it's good if you have the ability to make some gaps, then I would definitely do it, especially in the start of a race, because that makes it, people who, like, say for myself, it makes it harder for me to actually catch up once there are gaps made.
So still putting out solid power, still putting out, like, my heart rate's at 170, which around 171 is my red lining, where it's very difficult for me to stay below.
Yep. So we saw what happens when you get to start off the front row. So now this is kind of taking us to back where I'm at. I'm probably sitting around 60th wheel or so. So I know I have a lot of ground to make up.
Oh my goodness, I can't even believe it. So actually, before we started here, Pat and I discussed how our starting heart rates were about the same. Mine was about 122, Pat's was about 132.
And that makes sense because my max heart rate is a little bit higher than Aaron's.
Yeah. And I just got to say, to be able to weed through these people, that is a huge feat. When I saw that Pat was coming up behind me, which actually we haven't gotten there, but yeah, Pat ends up winning this race, which actually is relevant, so you can kind of see, like, he won the race starting from back here. So you shouldn't let your starting position necessarily dictate, your outlook or your positivity.
your mindset on the race. Yeah, because it's definitely doable, and I would say you could see I was situated on the start all the way to the left, and that I think staying on either the right or the left side can help you move up, because usually people will all try to get in the middle.
You've got to be aggressive, though.
Yeah.
You have got to be putting out power, trying to pass every chance that you have to pass someone. You have got to pass them.
But you also have to play it smart here. So on that run up there, which Aaron tried to ride. Oh man. that Aaron rode, because there were so many people stopped in front of me, I knew it was going to be a lot faster just to run it. So you got to make those kinds of decisions. I actually rub wheels with this guy. So that was an example of a time where, yeah, you're trying to pass every chance you get, but if you're a little bit too aggressive, then it can actually slow you down, and you can lose momentum. Absolutely. This, I would say, is quite a technical turn that everyone really had to slow down for that.
It was a lot easier when you're not surrounded by people. And you can kind of ride it at your own pace.
This is another example of that.
Yeah.
You gotta. So you can see Aaron's all the way up front. He has some pretty good gaps here as well. And I remember I make a little mistake here. I make the pass.
This was difficult right here.
And then I'm cruising.
Yeah,
and
I remember thinking to myself, like, it came up so quickly.
Yeah. So it's always good to pre-ride when you can. I actually pre-rode this, and I still made that mistake. So and you see, I lost 2 positions where I was just trying to pass that one guy before. So picking your places where you're gonna attack and make those moves is definitely key.
So we're coming into a power section of the course where you can really lay out some watts. This was an interesting course because as opposed to Applecross, which we just did, Applecross was definitely a power course, but there was less, like, recovery times where you're putting out power. This is a section right here where I was able to put out, you don't have a power on your you don't have power on your
but
bike right now.
We're up to almost 20 miles an hour here. 18,
I
19.
found as a road cyclist that even in this section where I'm putting out power, I was able to recover a little bit because of the consistency. You know, you're
not
just
accelerating as
exactly.
much as hard, but you're keeping that high speed.
This was the section that really gave me concern every lap.
You
This
see some
log
people decide to
was
run it.
just high enough
Yeah.
to where I didn't always feel comfortable bunny hopping it. And actually, the first time I got off the bike and I ran it, and I got heckled by the people standing there.
Yeah.
and so I was like, all right, fine, I'll ride it the next time. And I kept riding it, and thank goodness I had tubular tires because I was bottoming out every time.
Yeah, and because I was on tires with inner tubes, so I had to be even more careful because if I bottom out, then I get a snake bite in the tube. I get a pinch puncture, and then at this point I didn't have an extra set of wheels, but my race would probably be over. Maybe even if I had an extra set of wheels.
Yeah.
So this part of the course, again, picking your moments. I tried to go on the inside of that guy, and I made it around, but it was around the next turn I was able to get around him. So we're back on Aaron's camera here. He's out front.
This was a fun section. Super fast. What was it, 15 miles an hour?
Yeah, and you get to go over like a little bridge into a really cool stepped climb section. There's the bridge. And now this, I remember you were telling me you bottomed out a few times with your back wheel on those.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we're going to go back to my camera here right after this. This was a really cool section.
You had to play this smart.
You could either go to the left and have the sharp turn after, or go to the right and have it before.
You had to make sure that you had a low enough gear there. Otherwise, you'd get kind of caught up.
You get bogged down, and you'll see people get bogged down. And I think there's also a crash on top of this. So I'm riding this as well, but it's a little bit more.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's a little bit more dangerous because there are so many people in front of me. And you see, I usually try to stay to the right of this tree where Aaron went to the left. But I decided last moment I'm going to go to the left because I didn't want to get caught behind this rider in case he went down. So now we're basically on the back stretch here. I feel like this was a little bit more of a power section as well. There's a little off camber turn
really flowy.
that was muddy, which I think with tubulars you can run a lower pressure. I think this guy slips out because he's on a worn out part right there of the track, so it's really muddy. I remember, I think coming up here, right before you go over that little bridge, that other bridge, I remember both my wheels started sliding, and I barely kept it up. It was really lucky.
So now I'm in the front right there, and Pat is in fourth place.
Yeah, I finally got caught on.
Your heart rate is pretty high, 188 beats per minute.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, see you guys.
And this is still the first lap because I knew, because of the gaps Aaron was opening up, if I didn't catch on to the lead group in the first lap, then there was no way I was going to catch up to them.
I can't believe you got up there so quickly. That's crazy.
But I know I burned a lot of matches to get up here.
I don't even think I knew that was you behind me at this point. I was just going, man. I was like...
Alrighty, so this is a little bit farther back in the race. So we went through that little technical section, and this is to where a set of barriers are, and then a little tricky sand section as well.
Nice view of your GoPro. Oh, I wonder if this is where look at that. That was that technical. Oh, I was so frustrated.
So that's actually kind of dangerous to do.
Oh, I should not have done that.
Yeah, so what were you doing there?
So my rear wheel has notoriously fallen out or gotten loose in my rear chain stays. And so I could tell that it was happening again where the little skewer was a little loose. And so I had to reach down and tighten it. But I think just in the spur of the moment, because I knew I was in first place, I was like, I don't want to lose any time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this is a perfect section. I could feel it vibrating underneath my bike. I think maybe I had bottomed out on something and then it shook it enough to where it loosened up.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, here's my chance. I'm going to dismount, and before I remount, I'll just tighten it up. Terrible idea. I have almost ripped my finger off before servicing disc brake bikes. And that's not fun, so don't do that.
Yeah, so I guess next time when that happens, you'll just
stop.
That's definitely a good place to do it, but definitely stop after.
Yeah. Especially the disc brake is on that side. Oh,
Yeah.
it's making me queasy just thinking about it.
So basically right here, after I saw Aaron had that little mechanical, I wanted to kind of slow down the pace a little bit because I wanted to make sure that Aaron could do what he had to do and catch on.
Oh, thank you, Pat.
So, but you can see here, this is a technical section. I didn't know Aaron was right
like,
after
no.
me. And you know, those things can happen. You see, then Aaron gets caught up.
And of course the hecklers are like, he did that to you on purpose.
Yeah. So, I mean, little things like that, if you know something technical is coming
But then
up.
I did the same thing to you on the next lap.
Yeah. So
Inadvertently, I promise.
And so you can see now there's a little gap and there's a guy right on my tail. And I think he ends up passing me and kind of takes off a little bit.
Oh, I remember that.
And at this point, I was still, he's in front of me now, I believe. Yeah. And at this point, I was still thinking, okay, I need to make sure Aaron catches back on. So, but I remember looking back and seeing you. I think it might have been, I'll have to see where we are here. So the little switchback section. Oh, this is actually on the back part of the course. I remember you telling me at this point, you say, a little bit before this, you say, okay, let's go. We need to pass him. We need to set pace. And so then I let you pass me here. Now it goes back to my bike.
A weird situation because the team dynamics, team tactics in cyclocross, it's just really weird.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, though, I wasn't sure if you were kind of trying to set the pace back a little bit for me to hang on.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know that we can pass this guy now, and this is my view again. And that's why I'm like, okay, I get behind this guy, I get in front of Pat, and I'm like, now's the time, we got to pass him. And he could tell I'm coming up behind him, so
he tries to put on
the gas
a little bit. But he did a pretty good job at kind of blocking you and pushing you into the barriers.
But I was like, I knew I had the legs. I mean, we both had great legs today, and I was like, I got to get past this guy.
Yeah. So even though you're taking the rougher line, or you're maybe using a little bit more power, having that extra power can really help. And you can see. So
This is good to see.
How I race cross is usually I'll like to sit right behind either first or second. I don't know if it's just subconsciously because I'm really a roadie and I'm more of a sprinter, so I'll usually sit behind people and I'll choose my moments a little bit more of when I'll lead. But since there's very, very minimal aerodynamic drafting in that doesn't really factor into cyclocross as much, so being out front really isn't a bad thing to do.
Oh, this course was so flowy.
Yeah.
All these corners felt so great. If you hit them the right way, they flowed like butter.
Yeah, and you can see up here, you can send.
It's
spray painted on it.
Yeah.
So right here it says send it, and you can actually jump this if you want. But we're coming into the last little bit here.
Oh, this is it.
And so you'll see. This is where I know if I need to go, it's now. And so I put in a little attack here. We switched cameras because I knew if I tried to attack after the barriers, then it was going to be a lot more difficult for me to.
And as soon as you passed me, I was like, I am so gassed. There was no one behind me that I knew of.
Yeah, we gapped everyone else.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, and then I biffed it right here. As soon as that happened, and you could see I put out power trying to catch back on.
Oh, I switched over.
But I did put out a little bit, but I was like, he's gone. There's no way I'm going to catch him. And Pat's got really good 1 minute power, so I was like, all right.
But man, really fun course. I think if it did
awesome berm right there.
Yeah, you didn't have to break at all for that.
Nope.
And so I take you back here. You can see me. And at this point, if you're right behind someone, there's still a little bit of room to sprint because there's a nice wide straightaway where we, for the start finish. So, I mean, really well put on, really fun course, really enjoyable.
Totally.
And event overall, I give it an A+.
Yeah, I look forward to next year. Like we said, this was Crossasaurus Awesome down near Philadelphia, 2017. Thanks for watching. If you aren't following us, head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel, Veloce, I think it's just Veloce or Veloce Logic, or you can check out velocilogic.com where we have a bunch of other videos and photos and race reviews and other blog articles and things that you may enjoy. So thanks for joining us. My name's Aaron McNanny.
And I'm Pat Brown. We'll catch you next time.